So these are just a couple like as red sign that I make sure that we have all updated. And it's just, again, you're building out your portfolio. So it's every avenue that you can, like our red sign podcast, it's just a different avenue to not only further our branding statement of being real estate wealth advisors, but it's just another way for people to find us. Builder websites, we build all of our builder websites that we use so we can capture all those leads and have all of our branding on it. Builder Experts is actually a website that we developed in order to, we have a lot of clients that are like, I want to find land and build a house, but I don't know where to start. So we actually created our own website to now send to them. And now that's just, a waterfall effect of different people that can find it organically or paid. That's just leads coming to us. Your Google, make sure that's completely updated. Zillow, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, MLS. So these are just some of them that I recommend going through and finding and make sure that they're all current and you're active on them, right? So again, your website, and if you guys are on a team or an agent, I think it's still important to have a website. And if you need help creating an individual agent website, I build websites on the side too. So I can help you guys if you don't already have one, but this is essentially your heart of your business, right? This is the first impression that a lot of people are going to see that don't know you. So any internet lead, any sign call, different things, like this is their first impression. So I would make sure that you have it and it's all branded to your mission statement, right? Again, this is just every marketing thing that you do, it's going to capture leads through your website. So you want to make sure it's correct.
For agents, do you recommend using the KW website or just like your own website?
I think it depends. I personally don't know a whole lot about the KW website and what it has to offer, but I've built some for individual agents. And I know that they've had a lot of success in capturing leads, and you have a lot more changing it, right? And so you can make it specific to Utah, whatever. So I don't know what you're able to change on the KW website. So I recommend, and you can still integrate both of them, right? So if you can't do the syndication on your own portfolio, then you can still have both on one. Does that make sense? Okay. And then Red Sign University, that's just another avenue that we've created to show, like, we're very heavily focused on trainings and like coaching and different things for our client in all realms of real estate. So that's just a great way that we've just created reoccurring classes that we don't necessarily have to go and teach every time, but we just have created an Eventbrite link and then we post them everywhere online, and we're just getting leads constantly of people that are interested in watching a real estate investing seminar, right? So these are things that, yeah, it takes a little upfront work, but once you have them going, we get hundreds of reoccurring leads each week that we're not having to do anything else for. So just figuring out what you're passionate about and what you want to do and figuring out how you can capitalize on that. So first, when figuring out obviously there's millions of different ways you can generate leads, but it's super important to define your target market, because I feel like a lot of times people don't know who they're trying to capture. They're just trying to throw out a wide net and see what comes. But you can get a lot more out of it if you actually target market specific audiences. So I would go through your SOI, your people, whatever, your database, and go through and figure out all these like little factors and checks for your people so that you know how you can specifically market to them to get the biggest ROI out of your time. Right. So like we have done this we have a huge database, and we do this so then we can segment market to all of we have 40,000 plus people. And so we want to make sure that we're not just sending a generic email or generic thing. So that way we can capitalize on getting their information, and then also referrals, right? Like you want to make sure like, oh, wow, these people really speak to me. So how can I go and take this and then use that to get referrals and more leads? So social media. So this is the first avenue that we're going to discover or talk about for leads. It's definitely new. It's where the world's heading. I don't know if any of you guys were at family reunion, but they had a lot of classes around social media. And I think it's just a super user-friendly site. Right? Like they're all pretty easy to use. You don't have to have a lot of experience. There's multiple different platforms depending on your target audience. And it's just a great way. We have several agents on our team that are utilizing this and are getting like 90% of their business is coming from social media, right? So it's not, and there's no cost for you, right? You can pay for PPC and different things, but generally there's no cost for you. So I think with social media, the biggest thing for lead generation is calendaring out specific things that you're going to post and then how that can relate to real estate. Right. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm going to post when I post whatever, but they're not systematized in posting. And so you want to make sure that you have a specific calendar of everything that you're going to do. And then that all relates back to your target audience, right? Like if you are looking for listings, then all your posts should be geared towards listings. Like how much is, you have 30% equity in your home, check out how much it is now, and then have a link. There's different things that you can be doing to be either generating listing leads, buyer leads, whatever you're looking for. You just have to be systematized in the process. And then know when is your highest engagement, right? You don't want to take the time to go create a ton of content and then post it at a bad time where you're not going to get a lot of engagement. So it's just super important to make sure that like you know this and you're familiar with it. Obviously, Instagram, you're going to want to post. This is business specific times, anywhere from Wednesday to Friday, that 9 to 11 a.m. gap. And then Facebook, it just hears a little bit differently. But just knowing this and knowing how you can just make it a smooth, streamlined process, you're going to see a much higher ROI. It's a little more work in the front end. So for example, I have all of our red signs calendar out for the year, and then I have different things that come in that obviously depending on whatever's happening or if we're doing an event or something that you can't necessarily foresee, but just having a skeleton is really important. So all of you, I don't know if you all familiar with, but Instagram recently updated one of their changes on their site. You used to have 10,000 followers and be verified to put a link, but now you can put a link without having to do that, which is huge for you guys because again, your website is your lead capture form. So every listing, every blog you write, everything that you want to do, if you want to do home valuation, whatever content you're creating, you can all direct them to your website so you can capture those leads. So it's just, I would be utilizing every post that you do should have a link back to your website. Linktree is, if you guys aren't familiar with Linktree, it's a third-party software that essentially allows you to say like link in bio, whatever, and you can have a breakdown of different things. So I say every blog or every time we have a new listing, we put that. And so it's just a condensed way that you can brand it for you specifically, to have everything like it. If you're looking to hire agents on your team, you can have your new hire application or anyone on your team, different things like it's just condensed into one link, which is really nice for any marketing material that you use because it's streamlined. And then I think engagement, polls, questions, etc. Something that I've started doing that we've found a lot of success in. Instead of just posting it and like forgetting about it, what I do is after 24 hours of each of our posts, I go back through and anyone that has engaged in it, either they've liked the story or they've commented on a poll or they've done any sort of engagement, I actually reach back out to them and like, hey, like you voted this, like glad to hear whatever, like are you or anyone you know interested in real estate? So then you just change the script and we have this whole script depending on what the content was. And we've been finding a lot of people are like, oh no, but my brother is or whatever. So we've been getting a ton of referrals by like actually taking the time to see, oh, they didn't just click on it because it's a pretty house. They have someone that's interested. So that's just an easy tip to make sure that you're like staying on top of people that are actually taking the time to engage in your content. So yeah, that's pretty much a breakdown of all that. Does anyone have any questions on social media? It's pretty straightforward. Great. Facebook ads. Oh, sorry. Yeah. More engagement with like video. Yes. I mean, videos is the way the world is heading. And I think a lot of people don't see the market potential in it right now. You think of TikTok, we all have very short attention spans. And every time we do a video walkthrough or any sort of video, we get a much higher interaction rate. So I think, yes, but it also depends on quality. So I think making sure that it's still a good quality video is important. But I think you can control much more market share if you do videos versus images. What about like in the video, the content, versus like a walk through the house? I think it's good to have a mixture of both, right? Because are you an individual agent or are you on a team? Team. Okay, perfect. So it depends on what you're looking for. And I think that it's important to create, in any social media, you should have a mixture of your business, but also your personal life, because it's all about creating relationships, right? So I think you do want to have that face interaction, because then it's like, oh, someone has someone that they can relate to. And then that creates that brand recognition and that engagement level. So I think it's important that you want to show your face, but also not all the time to where you're not showing just like houses are different thing. So I would have a combination of both. Did you have a question?
There are tools that will help you like visual posts and post different social media sites. Do you use one of those?
I don't, because I'm a perfectionist and I like to like have control of everything. So I don't, but I know a couple people do. And I know you can actually pay for things to get posted for you. Again, it's just how do you want to curate your content to target your specific database? So I know people that have used that, you're not gonna have a highest success rate because you're not curating your specific content because it's just automatically generated. But I do, yeah, I mean, I think it is beneficial, especially if this is something that you're doing. For me, like this is my job, so I get it. But if you're an individual agent or you don't, finding the time, I think a resource like that can be super beneficial. So you can just kind of forget about it for sure. Any other questions? Facebook ads. So we are going to go into Facebook ads. How many of you are utilizing Facebook ads right now? A couple. So essentially, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to it, right? Facebook, you're looking for passive buyers, so you can get high quantity but low quality. So these are all people like your grandma sees a house, thinks it's cool, they're going to click on it. They're not looking to buy anywhere in the near future. And your lag measure, I think our average conversion for a Facebook lead is like 8 months. So it's a very long lag measure, but it is great in growing your database if you're at that state in your business where you just want to grow your database, and way easier to use than Google. So this is kind of my breakdown of what I use for Facebook ads. So you have your ad set budget optimization. So you'll create a campaign with 10 ad sets with $10 in each ad set. And this is just like, if you want to take a picture of and actually walk it through, it's going to make more sense. If you're not familiar, it's going to sound like a different language. Each ad set will have one creative, and you'll need 10 total. You won't want to have any interest or targeting or custom audience. It's just specific on location. So if you are wanting to target Vineyard or Orem or whatever, this is a great way to get full market share of that city or that zip code. 2 to 3 ad sets will get a higher lead count, no need for a minimum. And you'll figure out what your 2 winning creatives are based off of that. And so once you take those, you'll create 2 campaigns that will then be a campaign budget optimization ad. And those 10 ad sets with 1 interest each interest will both have running creatives in them. Then you do the same thing with retargeting. So it's just a way to essentially A/B test all that you're doing. Because I know a lot of people will just post Facebook ads and then hope that it sticks. But this is pretty much the science behind of optimizing all your budgets, right? So I just want to like, you can spend a lot of money and get no return if you're not actually taking the time to like go in and update and change ads. So again, it's a low cost, but you can get high quantity of leads. Does anyone have any questions on this? I know it's kind of, yes. So your creative is like your content. So like your caption essentially is what it's used for. So like if it can be a picture, so if it's a listing, it would be like what your copyright is plus the image used. So you can utilize, right? You can have just listing, you can have classes, there's so many different avenues that you can utilize for Facebook ad, but you have to figure out what makes sense for the geographic location that you're targeting, right? So it's a lot of just like hit and miss. You're going to have trial and error. But this is what I have found that's been successful in our business. Does anyone have any other questions on this?
Doesn't let you choose. So how can you get that?
Are you using Facebook on command or like through Facebook? Okay. Well, I've done both and I haven't had that issue. So I don't know. And usually I just target a city or a zip code. And so obviously it's not going to be as effective as any other like Google, because it's dependent on location settings and different things on that person's search network. So there's no, and again, it's just you're casting a broad network. There's no way to specifically target every individual. I found more success with the zip code. Yep. So on commands, if you utilizing commands post your Facebook ads and you aren't posting Facebook ads at all, I think it's a user-friendly tool that's super easy to navigate. So essentially what I've done for any of our campaigns that we've done that have had the highest lead count, we have done like you have the opportunity to like attract listings, attract buyers, event awareness. So I always do attract buyers. You'll make a main copy, short and sweet, but informative. Headline, location, description, learn more, right? Your whole goal is to drive people to your website or to click on this ad. And then I would include expert targeting. So essentially this is just taking interest of anyone that's on Facebook and any interest that they have remotely shown any sort of engagement with those interests will specifically target these people. So again, it's just making sure that you're casting the widest net possible. So that's just a simplified version of what we just went over. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, so again, this is year to date. We've had almost 50,000 impressions and we spent less than $800. Like I said, our conversion, it takes about 8 to 10 months for us to convert a Facebook lead. But it is a great way to grow your database and it's super easy to do. Does anyone have any questions on just Facebook ads in general? No. Okay. We'll go into Google PPC and Google Local Services. So hands down, the best lead avenue that you can do is Google paid per click, but it is the most complex. And if you don't have a full-time person doing lead generation or marketing, it can be very gruesome and time consuming, but it is a great way to just generate really high level leads. Because again, these are people that are actively searching realtor near me, best real estate agent in Utah, whatever. These are things that how you can capitalize that top of mind, top of brand. You're the #1 search result with these things. So this is our year to date. We've spent roughly $3,500. We've had 20,000 clicks and over 1 million impressions. So, and this is going to get lengthy. So if you need me to clarify anything, just let me know because it can get confusing. But Google AdWords, like I said, is the #1 platform for realtors in 2022 because you're creating an optimized conversion funnel. So when you're starting this, so if you have no idea, how many of you guys are utilizing Google right now? Oh, you are, okay. And have you found that it's, okay. How many of you guys want to? Yeah, it's great. It is, it's awesome. And if you can get it the right way, it's a lot of trial and error. You guys are going to see a huge return in your business because it's specific targeting. So you're going to want to make sure your account is structured the right way, right? Because there are so many, we can go and create a Google and you can try this and you can do a really low budget to just play around with it and kind of see how you can set up different things and see what works. But you'll want to determine what is your account goal, right? And then you'll need to make sure you categorize into a campaign and different ad groups at that level. So essentially, this is the breakdown of how you do it. So you can create campaigns based off different criteria, such as location, services. And then once you create those, then you'll target specific audience, buyers, sellers, and investors. So what I do for RedSign is I go to every zip code, well, not every zip code, but a majority that our agents service from Salt Lake County to Utah County. And I then create those campaigns for those zip codes. And then I target audience of specific buyers, sellers, investors, listings, whatever, for each of those zip codes. So you'll create the campaign at the zip code level, and then you'll create audiences at the ad keyword level, if that makes sense. So for example, you could create a campaign of home buyers, and then you could have first-time home buyers, investor buyers, luxury real estate buyers, whatever. You want to make sure that you are as specific as possible instead of just trying to be like people who are looking at real estate. You're not going to catch it because you're competing with big money companies that are spending hundreds of thousands a month, such as Zillow and different things that you're not going to get market share. So especially if you have a smaller budget, you want to make sure you're trying to get as niche as possible. So you'll want to choose your keywords wisely. For example, target luxury real estate buyers with keywords that are suited for first-time home buyers, or don't target because your conversion rate will greatly suffer, right? So if you're going to take the time and money, you want to make sure that okay, I'm not going to buyer in Utah County, but where can I focus my time and effort and really capitalize on that market? And this is how you'll do it. So again, it's a high cost, low quantity of leads, but they're much higher quality. This is one of the top sources our ISAs are converting at. But all your Google ads that you're doing goes to your website, and you want to make sure that you have a landing page optimization, right? You want to make sure you have a lead capture form on your website. And every time you have created a specific generated link that will do this. So for our CRM that we're on Boomtown, I can create, if say someone views 5 photos or someone looks at 5 listings, whatever number I want to create, then I will create that link. So anytime that ad is correlated with that website, then I know how many properties I can look at and what, and so then I get all that information. So then you can dictate different levels depending on the lead source, right? So yeah, again, you'll just want to make sure that here's some good practices to follow to making sure you're optimizing your landing page. You don't want to just use your homepage as a landing page, right? Because that's not giving you any information about that lead. That's just like, oh, they clicked on it. But you want to know, are they looking at the home valuation? Are they looking at a specific listing in a specific area? You want to get as much as you can out of possible to make that first phone call easier. So make sure that you have a clear call to action, right? There shouldn't be anything that distracts the visitor, such as unnecessary navigation. Again, we as people are very short term. So if it's not convenient and it's not quick, then you're going to lose that interest of that person, right? Because right now this person came from Google, they searched best realtors in Utah and they clicked on our link and they have no brand loyalty to us as Red Sign. So we're going to lose out on them if we don't make it as streamlined, as clean as possible. So it's very important that you make sure that you create that user-friendly experience for the customer, or you're going to lose out on that business. Add social proof such as testimonials, right? Don't provide too much information and complexity, and provide value, right? You just don't want to, you want someone to see value out of what you are offering. So make sure that you have that full branding and image up front. Determining your budget. So historically, the average cost per click for a real estate campaign is roughly $1 to $2.5 in the US, and it largely depends on the competition for keywords in your market. You should aim to get a lead for $10 to $35. I think Red average like 25.54, so $25 roughly for a lead in Google. But our conversion rate, we're converting them in 60 days versus 8 months like Facebook. And again, you just want to make sure that you have a desired action, such as filling out a form. That's just so important, because you're going to be wasting your time and your money if you don't have. And that's what I would recommend doing. If you go at start this avenue, you walk through it yourself, you click on one of your ads and you see, how can I improve this user experience to make sure that I'm capturing the most amount of leads possible and we're not losing out on certain steps within the process. But I think for like right now, I think we have 70 to 80 campaigns for different zip codes. And within all those campaigns, we have all those targeted like investors, listings, buyers, luxury, new construction. And those are all our ads that we're utilizing in each zip code. And then you target those keywords specifically, right? So it's a lot of just playing around, because it changes a lot. There's different companies that are going to spend a lot of money for certain words. So it's just figuring out, okay, how can I change it? Whether it's just putting like a misspelling or something else that like it's common for people to do, but then you can capitalize on that full market because no one else is doing that, right? So you just kind of, play around with it to figure out. And if you do want to start jumping into this avenue and you want to like me to sit down with you and do a walkthrough of like getting you set up, I'm more than happy to like help you get started, because it can be confusing and there's a lot of jargon associated with Google that's not known to the average person. So keywords. So this is like honestly one of the most important things, right? So a keyword is what that person searches in Google. So if I'm trying to capitalize on Orem listings that, whatever. So I'm looking for someone that's looking for something for sale in Orem. What keywords would they search? If they're looking for a house in Orem, what keyword would they search? So that's when you then go through and you put different things in to see, okay, how can you capitalize? So or are they going to search for realtor first? Or are they going to see how much their house could sell for? There's different avenues that you just have to say for each aspect of your business. Okay, what are people going to actually type in Google? And that's what you will then take to make sure that your keywords are relevant to your audience. Grant that is relevant to first-time home buyers, not necessarily to someone looking to invest in real estate, right? And sometimes first-time home buyer grants can have way more market control because those big names are looking for just first-time home buyer, right? So it's just figuring out like random things like this that you're like, okay, classes, like sometimes there's a lot of people that want to go to classes, but no one's targeting them. So that's what I found when I just said real estate investing classes, ran campaigns for those. I've gotten a ton of leads that I wouldn't have gotten from just real estate investing because we don't have the budget as other big name companies do. So, and use it as a planner tool to find keywords. So you can, there's different avenues within Google where you can actually look up keywords and figure out, okay, how much is my cost per lead? What's the market saturation on this keyword? And you can see like the breakdown of every keyword. So you know, like, okay, is it really worth me competing at that level if I'm not going to get full market control? So I think, yeah, just utilizing all the different avenues that they have, because it's great because you can see the full breakdown and then you know, okay, exactly where your money's being. And this is, again, and I can send out the slides because I know this is a lot of information, but it's like, it's hard to cover. A lot of you are utilizing Google. So you have broad match, phrase match, exact match, and negative match. So essentially these are what all associates with your keywords. So if it's a broad match, you're encompassing, like if someone says Zillow, Realtor, Utah, like I am encompassing all of that. If it's a phrase match, it has to be that exact order, right? So it'd have to be Zillow, Realtor, Utah. Match, it could be Realtor in Zillow in Utah, whatever. There's something associated with it, but it's a good enough match. And then exact match, and then there's a negative match, which would be like, I don't want someone, and I don't usually utilize negative matches, but it's like rentals. So for example, like we get a lot of people that I've had to go utilize because we'll have people like, oh, I'm looking to rent for $500, whatever. And we're not necessarily dealing with renters. We can send them to our property manager, different things, but it's not worth us paying for them to come to our business. So I have used a negative match for rentals, right? Like we do deal with rentals, but it's not, I don't want money to get those people. So just making sure that you're utilizing the correct match, and then bidding strategies, ad copies, and tracking, right? Like you want to make sure that you're, again, optimizing your clicks and figuring out what you're going to track, because there's a million different metrics that you can actually track. You can track conversion, you can track clicks, you can track a bunch of different things. So figuring out, okay, because it's hard, because a lot of this can be utilized, like you think of a company that just sells like a product, right? So it's a lot easier to track, you know, conversions on someone that's just going to go see an ad for an Adidas and go buy shoes. Whereas for us, we're selling homes. So it's a lot harder because there's a huge lag measure. So I usually track clicks, because for us, we can't know up front. Like for me, it's harder to know until we actually convert them. So that's a huge lag measure. So I think it's important to make sure that you figure out, okay, what do you want to track, and what is your ROI? So does anyone have any questions on Google PPC? I know that's a lot. And again, if you want me to sit down and like actually walk through you and your business, I think that will be a lot beneficial, because it's really hard. But Google Local Services, for those of you that don't go do all that, is one of the best ways that they talked about in Family Reunion to get internet leads. And a lot of people aren't actually utilizing it. It's a software, well, not technically a software, but something that Google launched like 5 or 6 months ago. And essentially what it is it's a way to get business that shows up at the most relevant time. So essentially what Google has done is any like law officer, any like cleaning, or any service at a certain level, you can go and get Google verified or Google screened. And essentially what this does is it just makes it easy for people to find you without having to go do all that stuff with Google, right? So if you're, for example, in real estate, which is one of, like, a lot of people are using this, it's just like anytime someone searches those things, instead of having ads pop up first, we now have the Google Local Services pop up first. So this is an easy way, because essentially all you have to do is you have to fill out a background check. Like you can literally look up Google Local Services, click on it, you say, I want to sign up, and then you'll have to submit a background check for everyone associated with your company. And then fill out a bunch of different forms. You'll have to have their license number, their pictures, different things. But then you really just, you pay for how much you just have to pay however much you want. And that's how it determines what level you're at in the algorithm. So it's not as complex. It's a lot more money, because obviously you're literally just paying for it. But if you're not utilizing it, there is a free, like if you still go and get Google certified or get Google verified, there's a free version where essentially you're just being put on there, but you're not going to be at top because it's all based off of who's paying, but at least you're still up there. So if someone searches your exact team's name, you're still going to be Google screener, Google verified. So it's harder to capture new leads, but you're still like proving that credibility to your current database. So it's super easy to set up. So for example, like I said, everyone has to be have a background check. So we pay a lot of money to be on top list of this, but it also depends on reviews, right? So when people, you know, for me, like I'm gonna use Amazon, like you're gonna look at something that has the highest amount of reviews, right? So if I'm looking at realtors and I see one that has 50 reviews or one that has 400, I'm more likely to go with the one that has 400 if I have no brand loyalty to either. So if you don't want to pay for more or a higher place essentially in the algorithm, you can make sure that you have more reviews, because it also that's an important factor for determining the relevancy. So making sure you have a lot of reviews is important. So if that's something that you're like, okay, I don't necessarily have the budget to go spend $100 a week to make sure that I'm top, I can go make sure I have the reviews, because that's going to help you a lot. And again, this is for us, for Redline, this is where we've gotten our highest ROI on any internet lead source, because they're all, you don't pay. So Google, I pay anytime someone clicks on our link, right? That doesn't mean, that could just be someone random that clicked on our link. That doesn't mean I get business. For Google services, I'm only paying anytime someone directly contacts me, which is a huge difference, because that means this person is taking the time to call me or message me. And that's obviously, you're going to have a higher ROI than anyone just like on your website. So if, again, I would just, everyone at Family Reunion talks about it, raved about it. And there isn't right now a lot of market saturation in Utah, if I'm being honest. So that's great, because you're not going to have to pay as much as other locations, such as like Texas or California. There's so many people. But if you go on it right now, there's hardly anyone in Utah. So it's a great way to get market control. Does anyone have any questions on this? It's different. So they are, but you'll have to create. So if like, for example, like we have a Google profile that's Red Sign team, right? And then I went and created Red Sign, and I had to go put every single agent on it. And they can still, so if they went and clicked on that image of Clay, it wouldn't take them to our Google profile. It'd take them to a list of like all the areas we service, what we do. And it's something that like, it's an input form that you'll have you fill out. And so I'll put like, I had to put his education, his MLS number, all those different things for each agent. So it's essentially, it's a more detailed version of your Google profile. And so, yeah, does that make sense? Yes. Yes. Except you newbies, I have to add y'all to it. So it does pull your reviews from Google profile in Google. You'll make on, if you Google your agent's name, your team's name, and you go to your reviews, you can get a shareable link, and then that's going to be, you can send it out to everyone. That's how you can boost it directly. So this is an old image, but that was when we were at 394 reviews from our Google profile. Does that make sense? It depends. Yeah, it really just, you put what city or what zip code you service. So when you fill out the form, it's like, I will do business. And actually they like, you can say state, you can say communities, you can do different things. So I think for us, we went in and I literally put in every zip code from Salt Lake County to like Spanish Fork or whatever. And so you can put like, if you want to say, I just service Vineyard, that's all you want to do, then you can put Vineyard, and then you'll get priority if that person in that area has searched for you, if you're paying more. Right? Does that make sense?
So, yeah. So with the Google local services, searching local off their IP, or is it searching because they detected best realtors in Utah?
Off their IP. Yeah. So that's, and it does a little bit of both. I think I've tested it, and I've found that when I like turned it off or changed my IP and did a VPN, that it still did this, because I looked in Utah, but I don't know to what extent, right? Because it's like depending on how specific you are in your search metric. Does that make sense? Yeah, yeah. It's brand new, so I think there's still tweaks. They're still figuring out things. But again, if you're in Utah and you're not utilizing it, you should, because it's a great way to get leads for essentially free if don't want to pay for it. So next is referrals. So these are all the referral partners that we are currently utilizing as a team. And a lot of these are free. You just have to pay a referral fee. So it's a great way to, like, if you're like, oh, I want referrals, because obviously referrals are way better than any internet lead that you can generate, because there is someone's already working with them and they're to do business now. It's just a matter of getting that right person into place. So I have gone and set up profiles on all these, and I've had a huge success, because then you want to do it, you kind of just, it's maintenance mode essentially. So I would just, again, just utilize all these. If you guys are utilizing ones that's better, like, let me know. But this is the best that I found that I didn't have to pay for up front, and we've seen a good amount of business come from that. It makes sense to pay that referral fee. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Maybe like same amount of money like regularly, like when
So usually with most of these, it's like once we close that referral fee to that, and it differentiates a little bit depending. Some of them are a flat fee, some of them are a little different. So it's just like you have to make sure that you read the fine print before, and you're like, okay, I'm okay with paying a whatever percent referral fee. So a lot of these differ a little bit, but for the most part, it's like after we close, it's not just getting a bunch of referrals and you don't do anything with. It's after you've actually done business with them. So again, this is just kind of like a rundown. I know all that was a lot, but for internet leads, what we utilize is Google, PPC, GLS, Facebook, KSL, and a lot of our leads come from our new construction. It's just creating builder partnerships. I mean, I think that's a good chunk of our database is just coming from curating relationships with builders and actually running their websites, because you have a lot more access to higher leads of people that are looking for builders than just people that are looking for real estate, because it's hard to compete with companies like Zillow and such forth. Referrals, and then sign calls. I don't know if you'll sign calls or have a great process in place, but this is something that, like, Cameron actually created a software that we can automate that whole process. We are not missing any, and we are making sure that we're optimizing it. So it's just important to make sure, like, with all these processes for any lead avenue, that you actually walk through it yourself and make sure, okay, where are the hiccups in the road? What do I need to fix and streamline? That way I know that our user is going to have the best experience possible, right? Because this is the foundation to them working with you, and you want to make sure that it's a happy process up until that initial contact with you. So this is a breakdown of all of our lead sources for 2021. And I know it's really small, but again, I'll send a copy so you can actually read it all. So you can see, like, we had a ton of leads from Facebook. Again, we did not close that many. Are significantly smaller than any other lead source because of that huge lag measure and the passive buyer. All of our events, we figure out ways, like, that's another way that I think a lot of people aren't utilizing to get referrals. Events are a great way to get referrals. Being creative with it. You just have to think of every possible interaction with your client. There's a possibility of getting multiple referrals. So it's like, okay, how can you then scale that to, on a team, whatever level that you're at, just make sure that you're truly utilizing the opportunity to create leads at every time you're doing business. So these were all of our leads. And yeah, like I said, you just figure out there's a million different sources that you can utilize, and it doesn't make sense for you if this is, like, not necessarily, like, for me, this is my full-time job. I have the time and effort to be able to go put forth in all these different avenues, whereas for you guys, it may not make sense because you're also having to sell houses and do different things to go then try all these lead sources that I just mentioned. It makes sense for you guys to go figure out what works for you and what you feel comfortable with, because I think a lot of times that's where you'll fail, is if you don't necessarily feel comfortable with actually going through and doing the process. So figuring out, okay, I can maximize my return on this course because I feel comfortable in actually navigating it. Again, having the expectation that you're not going to see a huge return at the beginning. A lot of this is trial and error. Like I've said, like, it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to get 1 million leads and then you're going to close 1 million houses. It takes time. And if you're consistent with it, which again, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I spent $1,000, didn't close one house from it, so I'm going to stop. But a whole bunch of things like Google and different things, their algorithm is based off of the consistency in the like historic period of you posting and doing different things. So it's super, if you're like, oh, I'm sucking at this, I'm not getting better, I'm not getting a return. Okay, well, maybe minimize your budget a little, be consistent in it, because if not, you're not going to ever see anything, because then you're just going to jump into a new avenue and you're not creating that like historic path. And focus on reviews. If you don't want to pay any money or do anything, the best thing that you can do is get reviews. And I think that's a lot of times people don't think about it, but that's your new portfolio. This is what people see for the first time. So if you don't want to do anything, just go spend 20, offer $25 gift card giveaway to get reviews and see how many reviews you can get, because that's going to make all these other lead generation sources way more optimized, because it is a foundation for the algorithm for most. And then this is just a breakdown of CI. So again, like all those avenues that not huge, like this is not including new construction and SOI, but our agent referral, we're at 40%, and our sign calls is at 60%. And then it's a mixture of all those other things. So again, it's just taking the time to figure out what makes sense. A lot of these, yeah, it's a low return, but it's just building that database. And then you have to not only generate the leads, but it's okay, what are your whole conversion metrics put into place to make sure that you're actually converting and being consistent about being in front of these people. Because a lot of times with especially any passive lead source, you're not going to get right away. So it's figuring out, okay, what touch program can I implement to put them on to make sure that like in 10 months from now, when they are ready to buy or sell, I'm still top of mind, even though they clicked on my ad 10 months prior. So it's just making sure you have every metric put into place. Does anyone have any questions? I know that's a lot of information. No questions? Okay, well.
Hi, can you hear me on Zoom?
Yeah.
Awesome. I was just wondering, because I couldn't really see the slides on Zoom. I'm not sure if I'm not looking in the wrong place, but I was wondering if you could if there's a way it could be emailed.
Yes. I have everyone's Eventbrite link that signed up, but if you didn't sign up, my email is Kaytin, Kaytin @redsign.com. If you email me and just say, hey, I want your slides, then I will respond and give you the slides.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. No other questions. You're all going to go generate 1 million leads. Yeah. It's a good question. And that's and that's what's hard, because I think Google, but it's complex, and like I went to school for this, so I like understand it. But a lot of people, I would say, if you don't have any like foundation of knowledge of any digital avenue, I would go join all the referral networks, because it's essentially just you're creating a profile. So you can just go and create a profile, and then it's just like SEO, right? You want to build that name recognition. So then the more profiles that you create, the more things that you can do. It just helps then with people with all these other stuff, because it's free. So right, it's free up front. So I know a lot of new agents like, I don't have the money, but I have a lot of time because I'm not doing anything. So I think that's a great way to just solely that foundation. And then once you start making money, then you can go take the time to spend and do other different things. But yeah, I would do that. Other questions? Okay. And I feel like it's hard. So that's what I like, because I know a lot of people are like, well, I want to know how to do Google ads, but it's like, okay, it's not just A plus B = C. Like there's a lot more to it. So I just want to make sure, like, if that's something that you want to utilize, you have the opportunity to, because it breaks it down. So for Facebook, that's what we've done, because when you try to generate listings from Facebook, you're not going to see any return, because but people that, like, if you're scrolling through Facebook and you see a house, you're more than likely a buyer, right? It's hard to specifically capture listings unless you're doing Google or something where you can target active people that are searching for a realtor or searching for how much they can sell their house or different things. But you can't necessarily target that on Facebook, or it's really, really hard to. So we've only received buyer leads from Facebook. We've not received any listing leads. And so that's why the Google local services is great, because I know like obviously everyone wants listing, no one wants more buyers. So that's where we found great success in finding listings, but it's hard. Facebook, we haven't found a proven way to actually generate listings from it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm here if you guys have any more questions or want me to walk through setting up a Google profile or doing anything.
What is your email again?
It's Kaytin, Kaytin @ redsign.com. Yes.